The polls are now closed. We have the latest results from Illinois as well as the nation. Confrontation in Chicago. Protesters lash out against Donald Trump at his rally. Many blame Trump for the rally protest turned violent. And joining us in the studio to discuss both the presidential and local primaries is adjunct instructor Bill Enright of the Political Science Department. All that and much more on this special edition of Courier TV News. Hi, and thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Nardini. Welcome to Courier TV News Primary Election Coverage 2016. The polls are now closed and precincts are starting to report the numbers. Joining me now in the studio is adjunct instructor Bill Enright of the Political Science Department with some analysis. Thanks for joining us, Bill.
Thanks, Rob. Nice to be here.
All right, let's jump right in here and start talking about the Republican primaries first. They were a little different compared to some of the elections we've seen this season. Can you talk a little bit about the winner-take-all format?
Sure. In Florida and Ohio, they have a winner-take-all. So the person who gets the most amount of votes will get all the delegates for that state. And so, for instance, in Florida, in the Republican Party, you would get 99 delegates, a big jump on the other people.
All right, that's good. That's good to know. We're going to put up our map now, our primary map. There are 5 different primaries going on in Illinois. I'll get the map up in a second. In Illinois, Missouri, Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina. Now, the polls closed about an hour ago on the East Coast for North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida. Can you tell us how important it is for Marco Rubio to win the state of Florida and John Kasich to win the state of Ohio?
Sure. Really, if Kasich doesn't win Ohio and if Rubio doesn't win Florida, they're pretty much out of it. There's no path toward the presidency for them if they don't win those states that they're from. I would say right now, at least the polls that I had seen, it didn't look very good for Rubio.
Okay. Just for tonight, Rubio, Cruz, and Kasich, for them to stay competitive, how many states do they need to win?
Well, certainly Rubio needs to win Florida, Kasich needs to win Ohio, and then Cruz needs to win at least one other state, maybe 2 other states, maybe North Carolina or Missouri, which you would expect that he might have a good showing in those 2 states.
Okay. Now let's shift gears over to the Democratic side. Hillary Clinton is projected to win most of the states today, but what are the chances that Bernie Sanders might pull off that surprise victory like he did in Michigan?
Yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised if he was able to pull it off in Ohio, because Ohio's got similar demographics to Michigan. They have auto parts industry, they have a lot of export, and so I wouldn't be that surprised if he's able to pull it off in Ohio.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. It's good to know. So let's shift over to the local Illinois primaries. What are the early pollsters saying about the candidates running for the Senate seat?
Yeah, right now it's looking like Kirk is in the driver's seat for the Republicans and probably will be able to retain the Republican nomination. Duckworth looks pretty good for the Democrats for the Senate seat, and so I would expect that Duckworth will win that also.
And that's pretty much what we were expecting all along, right?
Yeah, right. That's what the polls were showing.
Now, is there any truth behind the rumors that Napoleon Harris joined the race in order to split the African-American vote to maybe help Tammy Duckworth have a better chance?
I guess you never know what's going to happen in Illinois, but I can tell you after being around other campaigns, nobody would want to run a campaign just to lose. Everybody wants to run a campaign to win, and so I'd be surprised if somebody jumped in to do something like that, but I suppose you never know.
You never know. Okay, now talking about Tammy Duckworth, she's running for the Senate seat, so her 8th congressional seat, it's up for grabs. Can you tell me about the candidates and how they're faring in tonight's election?
Yeah, sure. It was looking like Raja was going to probably pull that one off in the 8th Congressional District, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Raja ends up getting it. And I know you're better at pronouncing his last name.
Krishnamoorthi.
Krishnamoorthi. That's great. The other one that I am kind of keeping an eye on is in the 6th District, where Roscom has a challenger, Kinsler, and I wouldn't be surprised if that race is closer than we originally expected.
All right, thanks for this. Your great insightful input on this, Bill. It's really helping with the election as the results are coming in. This past weekend, for a rally which was abruptly canceled, Donald Trump claims it was due to security concerns. Brian Troutman, CNTV reporter, was on hand to talk to both sides and get their take on the election's most controversial candidate.
Night for Donald Trump here at the UIC Pavilion as protesters forced him to cancel his planned appearance here. After the cancellation, protesters and supporters took to the streets. Chicago police were on hand to minimize incidents of violence.
The KKK. Donald Trump is not racist. Are you
No, don't do that.
again, you're on the losing side because he is racist.
He want to build a wall.
Yeah.
He want to keep a whole people out here. This country was built on immigration.
Despite his troubles Friday night, Trump is expected to do well here in the March 15th primary. Most polls show him ahead by double digits over his nearest rival. We spoke with some of his supporters and critics earlier in the day.
America great again.
As you can see behind me, there's a large crowd of supporters here at the UIC Pavilion to celebrate Donald Trump's campaign for president. Supporters are excited to see Donald Trump clinch the Republican nomination for president.
Chaparral up, baby! Yeah. Chaparral up! Yeah. Represent! College, hey, the community college is what Donald Trump supports the most, and I really like that about him.
Do you think he'll win the eventual nomination?
I believe so, because Trump is not a politician.
Others gathered in the Windy City, though, thought Mr. Trump was full of hot air.
I believe hatred, fascism, and racism has no place in the American democracy.
One group of protesters organized by the League of Latin American Citizens had been protesting for over 12 hours outside the venue when we interviewed them.
And we have been out in prayer since 9 p.m. last night. We're here to bring a profound message to the students of UIC as an example as Hispanic leaders.
Brian Troutman, CNTV News. Going into tonight's primaries, Donald Trump has secured 460 of the 1,273 delegates needed to clinch the presidential nomination. He holds a 90-delegate lead over Ted Cruz, who is his closest primary opponent. Trump was the only candidate making news this past week. Other presidential hopefuls visited Illinois. Here's a look at your 2016 election roundup. It was an exciting week leading up to the primaries, with Hillary Clinton making several stops this week in her home state. On Monday, Hillary Clinton hosted a discussion at Plumbers Local Union 130 regarding the economy.
Sheet metal workers.
We've got to do a better job of helping and persuading more people to go into the skilled trades. And I want to be the best partner that the trades have ever had in the White House.
Bernie Sanders also made a few appearances in the state. While Donald Trump had protesters on Friday night, Bernie Sanders took to what he called a political revolution to the suburbs in the city.
And if there is a record-breaking turnout in Illinois, we're going to win right here.
And on the Republican side, Ohio Governor John Kasich visited Rolling Meadows this week to rally his supporters. And Ted Cruz made several stops in the state. On Monday, Ted Cruz held a rally in College of DuPage's backyard, Glen, Ellyn, Illinois, at the Abington. Oreos made in America, the one thing presidential candidates seem to agree on. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders are speaking out against a move by the maker of Oreos. Mondelez International, which owns Nabisco, plans to cut 600 jobs at a Chicago Oreo cookie factory and move many of those positions to Mexico. As part of a $130 million investment, the company built state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities in Salinas, Mexico. Mondelez calls them lines of the future. In a speech last week, Hillary Clinton said if a company like Nabisco outsources and ships jobs overseas, the U.S. will make them give back the tax breaks they got in America. Donald Trump, during a speech in October, said he'll never eat another Oreo again. And Bernie Sanders, Labor chairman, has repeatedly spoken out about Mondelez's plans. Hi. Let's take a look at our presidential primaries that are taking place across this nation tonight. First, we're going to go to Ohio. And right now, this is projected that Hillary Clinton... We're going to go to Florida first, and it looks like Hillary Clinton has clinched Florida, and Trump also has won Florida. Now, is this what we're expecting for Florida?
It was what we were expecting, but it certainly is a big blow to Rubio. Rubio needed Florida to be able to move forward in the election, and it looks like he doesn't have it, and so really it means Rubio is pretty much out of the race at this point. It also is awfully big for Trump getting those 99 votes. It's a winner-take-all state, and so now Trump has 99 more votes to add to that 470.
That's huge. That's huge. Okay, and then we can shift over to North Carolina. And for North Carolina, it looks like right now it's a projection that Hillary Clinton is going to take it for the Democratic side and that Donald Trump is going to take it for the Republican side, projected right now. Any surprises there?
You know, I am a little bit surprised. I would have expected that Cruz would have done better in North Carolina, a southern state, you know, more conservative, and so I would have expected that. And I wonder if we're going to hear from some of the rural areas a little bit later on, and it might change the numbers a little bit. So I wouldn't be prepared to call that state quite yet. I'd wait to see what happens with the rural areas.
All right, all right. Let's move on to the next state, which is Ohio. Also a projection at this time. It looks like it's Hillary Clinton for the Democrats and Kasich right now for the Republicans, but it's a projection right now. This is very important for him. That's his home state. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Same story with Rubio. If Kasich doesn't win Ohio, then he's pretty much out of the race, which also, by the way, this also means that if Kasich doesn't win, that means that Trump wins it, and Trump picks up all those delegates out of Ohio, too, because that's a winner-take-all state. And I don't see Cruz on that board anywhere. So Cruz is going to have a lot of trouble, too, if Trump picks up all of these. The other person, of course, who looks fantastic in this is Clinton. It looks like Clinton's winning in all these states. We thought maybe Sanders could sneak up in Ohio, but it doesn't look like he's doing very well right now. And so I would expect to see that Sanders may not have any type of path towards the presidency either.
Okay, and for the Republican Party, no Republican has actually ever won the White House without taking Ohio. So that state is very important to whoever takes it.
That state's important, right. And so you want to have momentum going into the general election. You need to have big support in Ohio and really big support in Florida. And so if Trump runs away with Florida, which it looks like he's going to, and can pull off Ohio, of course he's got some sort of momentum in those states. Clinton, of course, at the same time also has momentum in those states. So it's looking good for both of them.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bill. This has been very helpful to everybody watching. Sure. College DuPage students had the opportunity to vote in their communities today. But did COD students get out to vote? Janelle Venegas has this report.
This past week, candidates made several stops in Illinois to gain voter support, including young voters. But in the past election, turnout among 19 to 24-year-olds was weak. Millennials who do make it to the polls are looking to the future.
I came out to vote today because it's the American thing to do, and I'm exercising my civic duty to voice my opinion.
If you notice all the young faces surrounding the presidential contenders, that's because young voters make up a large percentage of eligible voters. Candidates are now counting on students not only to vote, but also to convince others to vote.
The younger generation should come out and vote because the politicians, they gear their campaigns and all their issues towards the older generation who they know votes a lot more, and they don't pay as much attention to the younger generations.
Courier TV News had a hard time actually finding young voters who attend College of DuPage who voted today. We did find a COD student voting in Aurora.
I came out to vote today for the candidates that share my values and principles that I would like to see my state and country follow.
18-year-olds got the right to vote in 1972, and in this year's Illinois primaries, 17-year-olds who will be 18 by Election Day in November can vote today.
There is a new law, and it does allow some, allows some 17-year-olds to vote in the primary election if, in fact, their birthday is on or before the date of the general election.
College of DuPage alum and election officer Rob Logan says voters' apathy is not an issue among the young this year.
The majority is usually older voters, but I would say I've been an election judge before, and this election definitely I'm seeing a lot more younger voters. There's a really big turnout overall.
Many organizations were registering voters, especially young voters, at the college leading up to the elections. For those who wanted to vote today but were not registered, you can still sign up for the November 8th general election. To find out more, visit the Illinois State Board of Elections at www.elections.il.gov. This is Janelle Venegas with Courier TV News.
Am I in 3 or 2? Hi, welcome back. We just got an update for Florida. It looks like Marco Rubio has conceded. What do you think about that?
Yeah, basically means that Rubio's out of the race. Certainly Cruz will be happy to hear that because Cruz wanted to have him out of the race anyway, so he thinking that he might be able to pick up any votes that Rubio would have normally got. So it looks like, at least for the time being, if Rubio's out of the race, maybe it will work out for Cruz.
Okay, and so for Florida, as we said, that's final, that's for Trump, and then on the Democratic side, it's Hillary Clinton. And then we move back up to North Carolina, and for North Carolina, it's still projected that Hillary Clinton is going to win for the Democrats, and for the Republicans, it looks like it's going to be Donald Trump. Again, no surprises there, correct?
Yeah, all the percentages aren't in, so I think we'll wait and see what happens with Trump in North Carolina and see whether or not Cruz has any kind of a showing. If Cruz doesn't have a showing in North Carolina, he's got trouble too.
That's what it looks like. And then for the last state we're talking about on the East Coast, for Ohio, it looks like that is also projected for Hillary Clinton, Democrat, and for the Republicans, it looks like it's right now, it's kind of tight, but John Kasich, but again, that's important. He needs to win that one, correct?
You know, you certainly want to have Ohio when you're going into the general election. You want to have that feather in your hat. And then for Clinton, she's on a roll, and Trump's on a roll apparently. If he's able to catch up to Kasich and take Ohio, it's a two-person race now, and it's a two-person race between a Democrat and a Republican. Everybody else is pretty much out.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. This has been your election update. Thank you for choosing Courier TV News for your election coverage this evening. We will be back at 10:30 p.m. with more updates, including candidates' reaction and analysis. And Bill will also be here. So we'll leave you now with a segment we call Chap Chat. We ask CODD students if they voted today, and if they did not vote, why. Enjoy.
I voted for Bernie Sanders. I like his political plans. I like his ideology. And I really like how he was really active in the civil rights movement.
Nor am I planning to vote.
And why is that?
Honestly, I'm not really into politics.
I voted for Rubio.
And why is that?
I just felt like the Republican candidate was a good choice for this year.
Bernie Sanders. Well, I just believe in him. Everything he talks about, he's been, he's one of the only politicians that hasn't changed his views and values since he's, got into politics.
I have not voted, mostly because no one really appeals to me for the most part.
I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders because I think that he can definitely portray a positive message to the people of there is still hope in the U.S. and there is hope that we still have as Americans.